All right, so I am constantly tired of people saying, when I tell them I'm from Charleston, they say, really, because you don't have the dialect, you don't talk like it. Well, I'm here to say that my mom, who's in the back, is this beautiful woman that's in this picture with a team of three. And while my dad was traveling and doing his thing, my mom was working hard and raising us. I actually was the last child that was accidentally here. And she just looks at me and says, okay. And so, these wonderful people in this picture is my maternal grandparents, Margaret and Joseph Brown, who lived on Bogard Street in that beautiful home that my grandmother loved creating different colors on her doors and houses. My roots go to Guatemala. This is my great-grandmother, Ethel Robinson, who was also married to Roush Robinson. And they came in the late 1930s and bought land, and she was a badass. She literally, when he passed the year after, literally bred horses and kept taking care of her family. So she is my amazing, like, just rock star and She-Ra. So in my roots of Charleston, the beautiful things that I loved and that really stood out to me were like Bluestein's and the Lincoln Theater and various places that when you walked down King Street looked totally different than it is now. I remembered the shoe store, Reeves, that was in there, and Miss Dixon, her little self that was about this tall. She would change all my shoes, no matter how much I messed them up. And her thing was, as long as her hands are working, she was here to do what she needed to do to fix shoes. And then also that other store you see right there is Parker's Grocery, and that's the place we used to walk for 1 and 5 cent gum off of Bogart Street when we were little. So one of the things is I really loved conversation dialogue and had the opportunity to interview amazing people once I grew up, and a former Attorney General, Eric Holder, and you could see here various people. But one of the things that stood out to me the most was a conversation I had with Julian Bond. And he told me in my free-spirited, I'm here, but I really want to do more, and I want to leave, and I want to do, and he said, sweetie, he looked me deep in my eyes, and he said, Charleston needs you. And I was like, wanting to respect my elders, I heard him. However, there was a part of me that was fighting that. So in my free-spirited self, I left, I traveled, I did what I needed to do. But there was a moment where there was a crossroads where I just really wanted to know what was my next. And hearing his voice, as well as during a meditation time, I heard the voice that said, follow your heart home. And that's where it led me back. And my partner in crime, my daughter, London Jade, who is my heart and soul, we moved back to Charleston. And in that moment, I still was in a part of discovery, like, okay, so I'm here. I followed my heart. Now, heart, you better talk, because I came back kicking and screaming, but you told me this is where I needed to be. And then my paths crossed back with Kate Nevin, who is the board chair and founder of Enough Pie. And so during that conversation, I was able to reflect back to everything that was coming full circle and how we met. And that was through Dr. O, through a conversation I had with him years ago in the midst of my in and out of Charleston. And he reminded me that there was so much richness here and so much work to be done. And he also recommended that I meet Kate 10 years ago. And so at that time, sitting across the coffee shop at Cudzo with Kate and her bright-eyed, excited self about what she wanted to do on the Upper Peninsula with all these amazing people that were coming together, I was like, wow, that's interesting. But it was a cross of like my heart, which is the passion and creativity, as well as social justice and fighting for others whose voices are often mute. And what I found as I was reflecting back in that moment when I came back was all the different things that I had learned about Enough Pie and also had the opportunity to engage with. And that was how they used the power of creativity to connect and engage the community in a very authentic way, a way that had to do with using creative placemaking and turning amazing places into joy and opportunities for advocacy and activism, and really fighting policy in a mighty way with a very small team with everyday people that looked like you and I. During that process, they did such amazing things. Yes, yes. During that time, they did such amazing things through the amazing leadership and volunteers that look like you and I that really wanted to make a difference for not only the Upper Peninsula, but as they extended over and oftentimes onto the full peninsula, turning beautiful places like giving neighbors the opportunity to have funds to create amazing projects like a reading spot, or creating really beautiful bus stops out of the traditional covering and the, basic benches that we have, or having conversations with each other around the time of the massacre with Mother Emanuel, and creating the mural that's on the Dart Library with Cynthia Hurd in mind. Just taking those opportunities to be very thoughtful to find out what could they do through creative expression and dialogue to change the system. And as things moved on, they also wanted to tell the stories of those that were at Joseph Floyd Manor, those everyday individuals that you and I can pass on a regular basis, might not think twice to look at them, but their stories are so rich and run so deep into what Charleston was and still is today, that's often forgotten due to gentrification and the changes that are happening all around us. During COVID, this mighty team worked with artists to create face masks that were very creative and unique, as well as did food distributions within the Bridgeview community, Joseph Floyd Manor, and other communities that were in need. And then there was a moment where we pivoted and said, we want to continue to do all that, but we don't want to forget the children. We want to remember that we too are children, and we love joy and want to be expressive as well. And then there's a moment where you have to pause and you have to remember, in the midst of everything that's going on, Charleston is changing. And for me, that was a full circle of why I came back, why Dr. O, why Julian Bond, and that was a reminder that people who look like me are slowly diminishing off the peninsula. Our story is being erased, and it's hard for people who are coming in to remember what Charleston was if you weren't here before. And so I would invite you to come out to our listening sessions that we are going to have, because dialogue is where Enough Pie started. Dialogue is the heart of who I am, in the talking every day with people who look like you and I to find out exactly what we need, what we desire, and how we can continue to keep Charleston rich and moving forward for generations to come.